Okay, so I just wanted to introduce Rachel Maxwell. She is with the Stewardship for Us, affiliated with the UUA, and that they use them as their consultants in this venue or in this way. And Rachel's been with us since Friday night, so I'm sure she's kind of exhausted. But it's been really lovely, and really glad that she came in, and I hope everybody has enjoyed the weekend. And what Rachel's going to do now is kind of share with us. I don't know if we need that one or not.
Might.
Okay. Sorry, Rachel's going to share with us what she learned about us over the weekend and over all the materials that we have sent to her, and give us some recommendations.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. How about Mary Botts? You all are very lucky to have her. It has been my delight to be here over the weekend, and you all are energizing, so I am energized. We are doing a little slidey thing together, so if you find that I am speaking not to the right slide, you're always welcome to say, "Why are you saying these words? There's nothing on the screen that, is that." Anyway, here we are. This has been a visioning weekend, and I am Rachel Maxwell. Next slide. And you just heard my introduction from Mary, but I use she, her, or they, them pronouns, and I hail from Edmonds, Washington, up the coast quite a long ways. And I have been a longtime member of the Edmonds Unitarian Universalist congregation. I come to you after about 8 years of doing this work of stewardship consulting for Unitarian Universalist congregations. And I hold an MBA in sustainable finance and was an entrepreneur prior to this time. I'm going to start with some opening words. Next slide, please. These are the words of Alberto Rios. And I have to make my screen big enough so I can read them for you. It is a poem that he wrote. He is a wonderful American poet called A House Called Tomorrow. It is not that you didn't know words. It's that from the centuries you knew so many. And it's hard to choose the words that will be your own. From those centuries, we human beings bring with us the simple solutions and songs, the river bridges and star charts and song harmonies, all in service to a simple idea that we can make a house called tomorrow. What we bring finally into the new day every day is ourselves. That's everything we require to keep going. Look back only for as long as you must. Then go forward into the history you will make. Be good, then better. Write books, cure disease. Make us proud. Make yourself proud. And those who came before you, when you hear thunder, hear it as their applause. Next slide, please. So just so you know, I was invited here by your board in order to sort of listen to who you are and what you think and make some suggestions for how you might get to where you want to go. Help you sort of engage with the future. Next slide, please. So this visioning weekend process began with me getting a whole bunch of materials prior to the weekend about your finances, your governance, your history, all sorts of things, which I reviewed and then came in. And I started out on Friday evening by meeting with your minister and with your board. And then yesterday, I had 5 meetings with various people doing all sorts of wonderful things. You are the most active congregation I have ever seen, given your size. Just amazing. And then we had a visioning workshop yesterday afternoon, and then I went back to my hotel and I created this report. So here we go, rock and roll. Next slide. Everything is always based in mission. So everything you do and are should be reflective of what your mission in this world is. And I realized when I put this slide on that I didn't know when you wrote this mission, but it is, we are a welcoming spiritual community for all ages, living our principles through active service, embracing each other and the wider world. Okay, next slide, please. So, with that in mind, here are some numbers. I'm sort of a data geek, and so I love numbers. These are numbers that were reported to me, and you'll see like some variation. I'm gonna give you a bunch of different numbers, but some variation in the numbers, which is fine. Like, don't worry about the fact that one thing maybe says 209,500 and another says about 210,000. Like, don't worry about that, okay? You have, as reported, 132 members and 69 households that have made financial pledges. Those pledges total around $210,000. The median pledge, so if you stack all the pledges up from like most to smallest amount, the one in the very middle there is $1,800. Your annual budgeted expenses, now this is actually remarkable to me, are lower than your total pledges. I have almost never seen that, just FYI. And you have reserves of cash, endowment, and various other things of about $740,000. Next slide, please. This is a chart of your pledging distribution. I always ask congregations to do this, to take, so again, if you like stack up all those pledges with the largest amounts at the top and the smallest amounts at the bottom, and then you divide the total number of dollars by 4, and then you take how many pledges are in each of those, what I call quartiles, those amounts, which for you are about $52,000 a piece. So there are 3 households that make up the first $50-ish thousand, and then 7 that make up the next, and then 14 that make up the third, and 45 that make up the 4th quartile. And you can see the percent of households on the right-hand column there. Your percent of households looks remarkably like everybody else's percent of households in each of those categories. So, nothing remarkable here. The thing I find most remarkable is your median pledge is very strong. So, and the median pledge, from my point of view, is the best indicator of how strong your pledging is. So not the average is like meh, because that has it's like skewed basically to large pledges, not that interesting. The other thing that is a really good indicator is this 80 pledge in the 80th percentile. So again, if you boop down from the top 20% of pledges to the 80th percentile one, you get one at $4,000. Again, this is quite strong. So I'm feeling good about the pledging that you have. Next slide, please. So one of the things I thought would be important in terms of helping the whole congregation understand your sort of financial position, which I think it's important. Like, you don't have to hold this stuff up all the time, but every so often for everybody to get to know what the heck is the deal. Just so you know, I was given a balance sheet, so that means a thing that shows all your assets, that was dated from December. And so it's quite recent. And it showed a variety of different accounts. And here are what they are. So your endowment fund, according to that balance sheet, had about $200,000, a little more than that in it. You had various cash accounts that had $185,000. Then you had a couple of Vanguard accounts, so those are mutual funds and a brokerage account that have $260,000. Then there's something called a Fidelity Building Fund that had $55,000 in it, and something called a Fidelity something something Landscape Fund that had $30,000 in it. So if you add all of these things up, you have about $740,000 in various types of reserves. I know that the endowment fund is quite restricted. I believe that at least one of the others of these funds are quite restricted, but it would be one of the smaller ones. Next slide, please. So for all congregations that I work with, because I'm like one of those competitive people, I guess, I like compare you to other congregations. So I took the UUA data that's 2026 certification data, and that means that this is stuff that was reported this month and last month. And what the data people said to me at the UUA is they didn't quite have all the congregations in yet, but I decided to use the most recent data anyway. So when data is reported to the UUA, it's usually reflecting the year before. In fact, it is reflecting the year before, usually the fiscal year that ended the June prior. So important to understand that while it's the current data they have, it's really about a year that ended 6 months ago, most of the time. So of the 61 congregations across all of California, you are 29th in number of members, 30th in number of pledging households, 27th in RE enrollment, 31st in annual pledging income, and 49th in annual operating expenditures. So the only thing interesting about that is your operating expenditures, which are low compared to congregations sort of your size. And you can see that because in the next little set of stuff, I took the 52 congregations of your size across the whole of the UUA. So those are congregations with 120 to 140 members, and you are 22nd in number of members, and 37th in number of pledging households, 18th in annual pledging income, 32nd in RE enrollment, and 49th in annual operating expenditures. So again, what's showing up there is that your operating expenditures are quite low for your other stuff. And And just in this one, your number of pledging households is also fairly low for congregations your size. I don't think there's anything to be worried about there. But the thing to learn is you have possibly over right-sized your operating expenditures at this point, which could be for a variety of reasons. Next slide, please. So I thought you'd be interested to have a little indicator of where you've been. So I always create these charts. Now, I have data dating all the way back to 2008, but oddly, your congregation did not report between 2013 and 2018. So I decided not to include that data and to start with the 2018 reporting that you did. Again, remember that this 2018 data is actually probably from the fiscal year that ended in the June prior to February 2018. So it would have been the year 2016-17 when it says 2018 on this. Very confusing, but generally true. So what I see here is that you were heavily affected by the pandemic. And guess what? There isn't a congregation I have worked with that wasn't. And that your most recent data that you have reported is, in fact, looking a little better, which is really nice. Next slide, please. So this is about pledging income and expenditures. The red line are expenditures, and again, this is as reported to the UUA. So I don't know exactly how your reporting has worked or what you decide to do, but the stuff you report is what you actually spent. It's not the budgeted amount. And it is what you actually received in pledging income, not the budgeted or the pledged amount, okay? But I stuck in that very end dot where everything comes together, which is sort of 2027. I stuck in the numbers I have that are your current pledges and your budgeted expenditures. But as opposed to the rest of the chart, these are not actuals. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what was going on in the 2025 reporting that made your expenditures so much higher all of a sudden, but this looks okay. In fact, it looks wonderful from the point of view of pledging income and pledges. So when you're looking back a little less than 10 years, you're actually looking not like you're having big problems. And I think that's really important for you all to understand, that you're actually doing all right. So next slide, please. So I invite you to recognize the fact that you have shifted from a cycle of scarcity to one of abundance. And I adore these diagrams because it shows sort of more explicitly about how it is that scarcity builds on itself and how when things are going well, that is a wonderful snowball effect also. So I'm seeing positive outcomes. I am seeing, in fact, when I met with all of you, while you hold some anxiety, you love each other. You care for each other. You are here for each other. People talked about their concern to me prior to my visit about how people aren't necessarily engaged. A week or two before I arrived, you all met and you went through and did a small group process that had you responding to a couple of different questions. There were 54 people there. That's 45% of your congregation. That's amazing engagement. Like, this is great. You are engaged. Next slide, please. So we did this visioning workshop yesterday, and I did a thing that I've never done before, which is that I asked you all to design something to do and then make a commitment to do it. And I think it was pretty great, but I don't know if the folks from the workshop thought that or not. Anyway, what we did was, next slide, please. 26 people gathered, which from my point of view is really good here on this Super Bowl weekend, 2 weeks after y'all did some other major thing, and after I met with, gosh, I think it was a total of 35 different people in all the meetings that I had. Anyway, we shared what we value, experience, and hope for here, and made some plans. So here's what people had to do. They had to respond to the prompt, I love this congregation because, and then write little things on tiny sticky notes, which is a little, pushy of me, but it's the only way I can get people to keep it to a few words. So here are some of the stickies. I actually can, you probably can't read them, but I wrote in my notes here what they say. I love this congregation because it helps me be the best person I can be. I love this congregation because of the sense of community. It needs me. It's like herding cats, and I enjoy the chaos. Social action, sense of belonging. I love this congregation because it's full of people who want a better world. I love this congregation because I feel valued. Next slide, please. So then I made people write, again, on stickies, I feel most alive, engaged, committed when. So here are a few. I actually transcribed every single one, and I'm going to give that resource to all of you. But here's a few. When building small groups and seeing them succeed. When we're working together on a common goal for the greater good of all. I feel most alive, engaged, committed when I arrived on my first visit. It felt as if I had come home, and it made me weep. I feel most alive, engaged, and committed when I was on a fantastic team working on a long-term strategic plan. You're my peeps. Okay, next slide, please. So then, because we hadn't had enough of stickies, I asked folks to share when they had the most fun at UUCF. So I had the most fun at UUCF when at the auction, social events, dinner, skits, at the Christmas play that had no rehearsal, at the service auction, bidding and winning, when Chris started singing, people and me chimed in because it was so spontaneous. 9 people mentioned the service auction out of 24 responses to this one. I just gotta say, maybe you need this service auction because fun can be had. Okay, next slide, please. So final sticky I made people to do was to think down the road 5 years. So I invite anyone who wasn't here to do all of these things. But think 5 years into the future, everything has happened that you could possibly hope for at this congregation, and your congregation makes the news. What's the headline? Here are some of the headlines. UUCF has helped raise the literacy levels of area kids through their after-school writing program. Local Fullerton Church offers sanctuary to political refugee. UUCF has been recognized for its work in restoring reproductive and LGBTQ rights. UUCF has engaged community in city walks for all. UUCF is spreading kindness inside and out. UU congregation opens shelter for unemployed tech workers. So once we went through that process of sharing what we love, what we value, what brings us to this place, and what we hope for in the future, I had folks break into groups to work on projects, and they were sort of loosely divided by internal things that could happen and external things that could happen. And I asked the groups, next slide, please, to plan and commit to doing a project together. So something small enough so they could make a commitment, so it was doable, and that they would do it, and something that had a budget impact of less than $1,000, and was able to maybe be done by next September. And there were 5 different teams, and these are the things that you will see happening over the course of the next 6 months. One team is going to host a large fundraiser with music and silent auction to raise funds for a local organization that you all will have voted on which one it's going to be. Another team said they would host a talent show, wish I could be there, with a dinner, possibly jointly with First Christian. The third team said they would make sandwich boards with the ad that has already been designed for UUCF that's going to be in the Fullerton Observer, and place them or it around town and be there with it and talk to the folks who are attracted by the sandwich board. Then the fourth team said they would host several fun fundraisers to help fund a new RE director and music director. And the fifth team said they would form a committee, the non-auction event committee, NEEC, I like to think of it as, to orchestrate fun and free events hosted by UUCFers in their homes. So you're going to be hearing more about all of these generous things that everybody is going to do, and I implore you to participate, help, be part of it all. Next slide, please. So what do I think you ought to do? Like, this is a big piece of why I am here, is to help you figure out what your future is. Now, I was supposed to talk to you also, as Rev Rob said, about generosity. And here's what I think. I think you're generous. And I think you should hold that in your hearts. And because you can undoubtedly, everyone can be more generous, but I want you to see yourselves as the generous people you are, both with your financial resources and with your time and energy. So what are the next steps? I think you should take the information garnered from the meeting a couple weeks ago or a week ago and the visioning workshop. And as I say, I transcribed all those little sticky notes so you have all that information. And create a set of congregational priorities. And so maybe just 3, absolute maximum 5, okay? And bring them together with some goals. So for each priority, set some goals. And then create the things you need to do, which I call initiatives, to get you to where you want to go. So that I think you're really ready for this. And this is sort of the beginnings of a strategic planning process, which you'll see I'll recommend in a later thing here. Now is remember all the assets you have? Now is a good time to consider using some of those to invest in the future. And that is a really important thing to understand, because we are in a time when the world could not possibly need Unitarian Universalists more. So don't sit on your assets waiting for a rainy day, because you know what? This is the biggest storm of my 66 years. There have been some mighty big storms during that time, but this one is bigger. So, more recommendations. Review your bylaws and policies. This is like wonky stuff. To reflect your current needs and goals. So you need some good policies around those. Next slide, please. Thank you. You need some good policies around those. What are those financial assets you have? Who gets to decide how those are used? What up? Because not all, you have a policy about endowment, but the endowment is only a part of those assets. And I actually recommended to the group that was the financial people, et cetera, to change that endowment policy so it allows you some more flexibility. Because right now you can't spend your endowment, ever, unless there's an emergency. So, and then, there you go. Those are the policy ones, bylaws, policies. And then next slide, please. So this one, I recommend you have some more fun together. You guys love having fun together. I got to hear about that. I loved the cake. I like cake. We had cake the first night, too, and it was really delicious, that red velvet cake. Anyway, have more fun together, and I'm seeing that coming your way from the commitments made at the visioning workshop. And then map out a strategic financial plan. Now, these plans don't have to be set in stone, but they help guide you forward, and they help give you some discipline around getting from here to there. And that is a really important piece of the puzzle. And to not just have strategy and tactics, but also couple that with finances. What does it look like financially? And have realistic goals set for yourselves, so that you can use prudently the assets you have to make the future you want. So I'm going to leave you with the next slide, which is my closing words, and then I will answer questions. and I can't read it, so I have to like pick this up a little bit. At this moment of ending, may there be a good word, a blessing, to help us remember what we have so often forgotten. May the message we need be gently spoken and held in the spaces of ourselves, the fibers that hold all we need to maintain our gentleness, our courage, and our hope. At this moment of ending, may the goodness we wish for ourselves and each other, the community, ecosystem, planet, and stardust galaxy become such a part of us that we cannot tell where the blessing ends and we begin. So as I take questions, I'll invite that we have the final slide up, which expresses my gratitude. So next slide, please. Mary's going to bring the microphone to anyone who has a question.
I have one question for you guys is, did anybody leave their sweater here yesterday?
It's a very nice sweater.
It's a very nice sweater. Rachel's going to take it home.
Yeah, I have more use for it than you all in Anaheim. I got news for you. Come on, somebody's got a question.
Hello. So in the Vanguard accounts, this is a question to you and maybe to the board. Has care been taken that those mutual funds are not invested in companies that are abusive, like Amazon or maybe Target or even fossil fuel companies?
Well, I adore the fact that you brought this question forward. I have no idea. I do know that you have, at least in your bylaw around your endowment, that it's supposed to be invested, you know, in alignment with your values. But I'm happy to talk to anyone who's in the financial piece of this puzzle and about what congregations have done. Your endowment is all invested in the Unitarian Universalist Common Endowment Fund.
Okay.
But the rest of it isn't. Yeah, I don't know what the investments are.
We can find out.
Yep.
I've been coming to this church congregation for 27 years, and this is the first time I've heard that we had such a large amount of assets available to us, over 700,000. Okay, that's great. We're good savers and good investors. We've had some good financial advice in the past. My understanding is that if this church ever folds, all of those assets go back to the UUA in Boston. Is that not true?
I can't remember what your bylaws say about that, but you can always change your bylaws if you aren't happy with whatever you've determined. Every organization has to make a determination about, in their bylaws, about where it is that should the organization fold and still have assets, you are in absolutely no danger of imminent folding. So you have some time to think of this through.
Right, and I believe that our endowment fund has that caveat in it because it's at UU, but I believe we can also designate where that money goes. I'll have to look more into that, but I know we do not have to fold it all in.
Yeah, this is entirely up to you that you can put in your bylaws.
We should really be planning to carefully and rationally and responsibly spend some of that money immediately.
Well, I don't recommend you spend it immediately because then the careful, rational part might be missed. Yep. Any other questions? No? Well, I'm around for a little bit if no one else has questions, and I really appreciate, oh, is there another, I'm like, I can't, the lights are bright. Mary,
Did you have something else?
is there? No? You're all right. Is that your sweater? Oh, too bad. Thank you all.
Well, since she can't take the sweater home, and because I promised her that I would not make her take flowers home onto the plane, and because you've been so awesome, I got you assorted awesome bars from C's Candy. So, Rachel, I want to thank you so much for all that you have done this weekend and all your attention to detail, and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you all.